Lately, we have been exploring the intuition of a global transformation, a big change occurring, and we've been talking about that a lot lately. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the idea that this event, this transformation, has been talked about throughout history, throughout religion, in terms of Armageddon, or the second coming of Christ, or the new age of Aquarius, or the new eon, the eon of Horus and Thelema. There's a lot. We're going to be taking a look at this to see, is this true? Is there logic and reason behind this? Is there some sort of cosmic plan written to the cosmos leading up to this big event that we're all intuiting and feeling as we're connected to the collective unconscious? That's what we're talking about today. Important information, because I know that we are all feeling it. Now, before we get started, I want to remind you all that if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon. You're going to get access to member-only videos every single week. The member-only video that we're having this week, right after this, is about AI, because Google CEO just said that AI is the most significant invention since fire. So we're going to be taking a look at the idea of AI. Will it light up the world or burn it down? Also, remember, be on the lookout for scams in the comments. There's a lot of scammers out there. I'm never going to ask you for your WhatsApp or your Telegram. That's not me. Don't fall for it. Also, there's a lot of people, nefarious groups out there that don't want us to get this information out. They're spreading a lot of misinformation and disinformation and lies. So be on the lookout for all that BS. That being said, here we go. Let's discuss this idea, this intuition that we're all having, that something big is coming, this global transformation, this global change, and how it's been talked about throughout history in terms of Armageddon, the new eon, the age of Aquarius, the second coming of Christ, etc. Is it true? Is there something to this? Now, we're going to be taking a look at quotes from an article on medium.com by Emery Hodge. And let's see, bring it up on screen. The name of the article is the same as the title here, Something Big is About to Happen, by Emery Hodge. I'm going to be reading some quotes from her throughout this to discuss this important topic. So that being said, if you enjoy some of the quotes that I read by her, go support her over on Patreon, over on medium.com. Go give her a follow, go give her some support. So let's take a look and see what this says here. It says, so Emery says, after my spiritual awakening, I began to experience something strange, an eerie sense that something big was going to happen in the world. And I think a lot of you can relate to that, this intuition that something big is about to happen. Like I said, it's something that we've been exploring a lot lately, and it's not something new, though. It's been something that's been discussed for a while. But the question is there something to it, and is it actually going to happen soon? Because, for example, I remember, I grew up in a strict Christian household, and I was raised on that religion. And the whole idea was that, oh, Christ is going to come, Christ is going to come. Very erotic. But Christianity has been saying that for 2,000 years. Ever since Christ died on the cross, they've been saying Jesus' second coming is going to be coming soon. They believed that Christ was going to come back within that generation that was there when he died. And so for 2,000 years, they've been saying Christ is going to, any day now, it's going to come back. So is that true? Is this intuition, though? I don't mean is it true that Christ is going to come back? But what I mean to say is that there has been the idea of a world transformation in the global event permeating throughout history. But is it actually going to happen anytime soon, or is it just another fantasy? Is it just a delusion? Well, we're going to see that there is actually something very interesting occurring right now, and it has to do with what's being discussed, and we can see the steps towards this. Here, I'll just continue. Let me continue a little bit, and you're going to see what I mean. I always get ahead of myself because I get really excited because this is really powerful information. So if you're having this intuition, remember, you're not alone. We're all feeling it. We're all seeing this. And so Emery continues by saying, this wasn't connected to any particular event or news story, but I couldn't shake it. I'd often wake up in the morning with dread that something major was going to happen and it would affect everyone. If you're spiritual, you've likely experienced this too, so let's get to the bottom of it. And I think one theme that you can see throughout our exploration, we've been exploring this topic a lot lately, is that so many of us are beginning to feel this and intuit this, and this is tied to what's happening, what's going on. So Emery says everything is connected to everything, but some people can feel that connection better than others. And that's absolutely true. We're all intrinsically connected. And even quantum mechanics shows through quantum entanglement that we are connected, and also shows that this is a non-local reality. So we can understand just through basic understanding of science that we're all connected. Really, humanity is 100 years old in the past when it comes to their understanding of science. Quantum mechanics was around since the early 1900s, but most people aren't even familiar with it. We live in a non-local reality, not a local reality. So what does a non-local reality mean? And this is just important to show the connectivity, because connectivity is important for what we're talking about here. So it's intrinsically tied to it. So what a non-local reality means is that the idea that we're separate is an illusion. For example, a great way to understand the difference between locality and non-locality is a video game. When you're in the video game world, there's distances, there's separation. One character is here and one character is over here. But in reality, are they really separate? No, it's just an illusion. Really, everything is connected by what? The underlying code. The underlying code connects everything together, regardless of distance in the video game. So even though there appears to be separation, everything is intrinsically connected through the underlying reality of mind. So like a video game is to the code, physical reality is to the domain of mind. We're all intrinsically connected. And so she's saying that everything is connected to everything, but some people can feel that connection better than others. Yes, it is true. Some people can feel that connection better than others. We all are like, again, characters in a video game is a good example. We all have strengths and weaknesses. Some of us are very rational. Some of us are very intuitive. Some of us are real in touch with our emotions. Some of us are better at physical activity. We're all like different characters in a video game. Now, some of us who are very, very intuitive will feel that connection deeply. Others won't. But this doesn't mean that it's not there. And we can come to understanding of it through intuition, and we can also come to an understanding of it through reason. That means we can use reason to know that we're connected. So even if someone may not be highly intuitive and feel that connection, if they're a more rational person, you can have them come to the understanding that everything is connected through reason, showing rationally through things like quantum mechanics and mathematics and philosophy that we have to be connected, that we must be connected, that there's no way for reality to work if we weren't connected. Kind of like how you would be convincing a video game character that, hey, there has to be a code. The video game could not exist without the code. Same sort of thing. Reality has to be based on mind and reason and frequency and mathematics. Otherwise, none of this would be possible. It is foundational and is required. So what does this have to do with something big that is about to occur? What does this have to do with a global transformation? What does this have to do with the idea of a new eon, the second coming of Christ, the age of Horus, etc.? Well, we're going to see why in a second that this all connects. So it's Emery says, when that happens, you have access to the collective unconscious and can interpret it with more clarity using your intuition. So we're all connected to the collective unconscious. Some of us are more aware of that connection than others. We're connected to it via the right hemisphere of the brain, the functionality of the right hemisphere of the brain, which is associated with the unconscious mind. We're all eternal minds, eternal beings, and our brains are what allow us to interface with different modes of reality. Our brain, left hemisphere of the brain, is associated with the physical domain, and the right hemisphere of the brain is associated with the unconscious, collective unconscious, and personal unconscious. So the brain is sort of like the hardware, where our mind is what uses the brain to as a tool to interface with different modes of reality. So Emery says, while you can and do interpret big positive events, you react stronger to negative echoes that come your way. That's because you're motivated by a survival instinct and will consider negative news more serious and urgent. So I think you can all relate to this. When you hear a lot of negativity on the news, which there is quite a lot of negativity in the news, you're going to remember and recall and be affected much more by the negative news than the positive news. Why? Because our brains are wired to keep us alive and survive, not to be happy. Our brains are not wired to make us happy. Our brains are wired to make us be adaptable and survive. And we feel happy because sometimes happiness is what allows us to adapt and survive. So you're going to recognize these negative events a lot more than the positive events because your brain is hardwired for survival. But here's an interesting thing that I want to point out. Connected to this idea of a global transformation and a global change, which is the end of the old world and the birth of a new world. Because I'll tell you, the thing that connects all these ideas together, the second coming of Christ, the age of Horus, the new Eon, the age of Aquarius, etc., is the idea of the end of an old world and the birth of a new world. With the second coming of Christ, you have, Revelations and the end times where the earth is basically demolished, but then remade the kingdom of heaven on earth. And then you have the age of Aquarius, which is a transformation of the earth. And you have the Eon of Horus, which is the end of the old Eon and the birth of a new Eon. So you have, with all these ideas, the end of the old and the birth of a new. Now, why is this transition? Why is this transition occurring? Because what did I just say about the brain? Our brain, our avatars, our bodies, and our thought processes are geared towards survival. We are in the survival phase of reality. That's because this stage of evolution, this stage of the game of life that we are in, was all about evolving and generating an avatar that is capable of surviving, that has the capacity for self-awareness. That was the goal of this phase of the game. Build an avatar that can survive and have self-awareness. Well, guess what? We did that. We did that. So now what we need to do is switch from survival and surviving to flourishing and thriving. So we need to rewire, readapt ourselves and the world from a survival instinct to a conscious, thriving, purposeful goal. So we want to switch from survival to thriving. This is important. We're done with survival. Survival is over. The reason why we see so much destruction and hatred and chaos in the world is because we're in a survival mindset which pits us against them, me against you. We need to transform this us against them to we're all in this together. So, when we look at these different ideas of the age of Aquarius or the new Eon of Horus or the second coming of Christ, there's this idea of a switching, a transformation, and a transition from an old destructive way of doing things to a new and higher way of doing things. The second coming of Christ is not Christ coming down from the clouds and enacting judgment on the world and literally bringing heaven on earth. The second coming of Christ is us. We are the second coming of Christ in the form of a new consciousness. We are the second coming of Christ in the form of a new consciousness. And we will build the kingdom of heaven on earth through the realization that the kingdom is here and now in potentiality, and then we will actualize it. We will make it be. It will happen. By our will, it will be done, and we will switch from survival to thriving and purpose and fulfillment. And then we can start enjoying life instead of surviving. That's why, don't you feel like every single year, every day, you're in survival mode. Every day, it's a fight. It's a climb. You have to break your back doing a bullshit job or deal with hateful bigots or whatever it is. It's because we're stuck in this survival mindset. The world makes you focus on survival. We need to switch to a thriving mindset. Instead of us against them, me against you, all of us are in this together, and we will build that kingdom here and now. And this is why that second coming of Christ is not about Jesus coming down from the sky and everyone vanishing and floating up in the rapture. It is about us becoming a new beginning and a new humanity through a new consciousness, and thus being able to create a new earth. The old earth is over. The old earth is done. Now it's time for something new. So Emery says, similarly, an event in which there was no anticipatory. Oh, hold on. The reason you feel something big is about to happen most times is that few events occur suddenly and without significant influence from multiple parties. However, we can't discount the very real possibility that the reason that you feel something big is about to happen is that the universe wants you to feel that way. Well, let's see. Does the universe want you to feel that way? What does that mean? Well, the universe isn't some kind of God that's directing your life or doing anything like that. The reason why that you feel something big is about to happen is because you are an instrument in that unfolding. It's because you are a part. Everything is connected together. The something big that is about to happen is enacted and brought into fruition in actuality by us and by our will and by our power. So Emery says, when the universe was created, there was a divine plan. This was programmed into the natural forces like gravity that attract large bodies in space to each other. So there wasn't some God in the sky that created the universe and then had a divine plan in mind. Rather, it was programmed into the natural forces of reality. But to be said more accurately, the creation of the universe was generated by us. We are all eternal minds, beings of frequency, that generated this world unconsciously to explore ourselves in diversity and multiplicity. And this plan isn't some sort of God willing something. It is a process that is literally embedded into the code of existence. What is reality? Reality is a system of reason that expresses itself via frequency and mathematics, that is exploring all of its possible transformations. Why is it doing this? Because it can do this. It's valid and logical and possible. It has and possible, not impossible, and possible. It must happen. It can't not happen. It has to happen. It is the only thing preventing impossibility from occurring. It must. And so reality is exploring, like a Rubik's Cube, all its possible transformations. And as it explores all its possible transformations, it's not doing this randomly. Because mathematics and reason is not random, it follows a process. So it's not randomly exploring it, it's exploring it through a process. And you can see this process occur throughout evolution. Evolution is the visual manifestation that we experience, or the physical space-time holos manifestation that we experience of a process going on in the background, which is a transformation of mind, exploring all its various structures. Mind is evolving and transforming, exploring its various structures, and this is projected into space-time as our world, the universe, and evolution. And we are getting to a phase in that transformation in which we are entering into a new era where we realize that we are the ones doing that transformation and are in charge of this transformation, and thus can transform it in any direction that we want. In other words, evolution isn't something that is occurring to us. We are evolution. Evolution is what we are. And thus we can take it into our own hands, whereas previously evolution was an unconsciously directed force, occurring through unconscious forces, the clash of animals, predators, and prey, and the clash of different societies and nations and governments, all this evolution occurring, both social evolution, economic evolution, political evolution, physical evolution, all this unconscious play of forces, to a new consciousness that we realize we are that force of evolution, and we have the power to make the transformation in the world through our actual awakened collective will. In other words, we decide the direction. The direction doesn't occur to us. We're not just a ship on the waters being directed by gusts of winds. Rather, we now take firmly hold of the wheel, and we direct the ship towards a goal, rather than being directionless and just buffeted by nature. We take control of nature because we are nature. Nature is not something separate from us. People look at technology as a bad thing and like it's contrary to nature. It's not. it is born from nature and is simply an extension of nature as us directing nature. But now we must consciously realize that we are the force of nature that is doing that direction. It's another level up, another level of metacognition to recognize that that is what we are doing, and to then direct technology towards that which aids in our humanity as a thriving species, as a thriving collective, as thriving minds, as a thriving unity. In other words, what does that mean? Well, right now, sure, humans direct technology, but they aren't aware that they are the force of reality directing a tool that allows itself to transform and evolve. So what happens? You get technology that is built to degrade your life, which is exactly what social media does. Millions of dollars and some of the smartest minds in the world work to build technology that is specifically designed to waste your time and keep you addicted. Now imagine if instead we become aware consciously that we are the force of reality directing itself, and thus directs technology towards being that which increases the quality of life of every individual and the collective. What if instead of we had algorithms designed to waste your time by showing you the most addictive content possible, simply so that you will stay on the platform for as long as possible and watch as many ads as possible? What if instead all our resources, instead of being directed towards that, were directed towards algorithms specifically designed to get to know what makes your life more purposeful and meaningful, and increases that feeling of fulfillment, and gives you and provides you with all the tools necessary to have the most purposeful, fulfilled, and meaningful life possible? Do you see the difference in mindset that is switching from an old earth to a new earth? And technology is just one example. Instead of just being focused on arbitrary goals or the goals of money or survival, etc., it's directed towards increasing the quality of life of every individual in the collective. And that's just one example of algorithms. But what if every element of society was directed towards the purpose of increasing the quality of life of every individual in the collective, like how I just described? Every element of society was directed towards giving you the best life, the most fulfilled and purposeful life for you and everyone together. We can do that. And that's exactly why we want to establish a teleocracy. Teleocracy comes from the word telos, which means purpose or goal. We want to have a purposeful society, not a society built on greed and survival, but a society based on purpose, meaning, actualization, enjoyment, evolution, growth, transformation, fulfillment. That's the kind of life we can have in a teleocracy, a world built on purpose, built on thriving. So Emery says, talk to any spiritual person or go on social media and you'll see countless messages from people sharing their intuition with others. It seems like people are waking up and something major is going to happen. And something major is going to happen. The reason why this intuition is being felt is because we are a part of it. We are directly involved in it. It's not just something that is happening to us. We are a part of it. As we shift in consciousness, we shift the world. That's why it's important to be able to do the work. So what do you do about all this? What do you do if you're a part of this? Well, the first thing that you need to do is work on yourself, because you can't really be a big help if you don't really understand what you are, where you are, why you are here. So you need to work on your own evolution and growth and understanding of existence, and not just a formal understanding either, but a phenomenological understanding as well. Your understanding of not just the mechanics of how reality works, but also increasing your emotional intelligence as well, as you understand different faculties that are very important for being able to communicate empathetically with your fellow humans, and not just fellow humans, but life in general, fellow minds in general, and being able to communicate and interact and create a world which is about creating a more healthy, supportive, loving, and thriving environment. So not only must we increase our intellectual understanding of reality and ourselves, but we must also increase our abilities of compassion and empathy and love, in addition to understanding the mechanics and rational faculties of where we are, what we are, and why we are here. We have two sides of a coin, and we must not ignore one for the other. So let's see. Emery says, we live in a time of science, not spirituality. Many people have left traditional religion because of this, but have found that a life without spirituality lacks meaning and seems mechanical. Some are going back to traditional religion, while others are forging a new path that syncretizes and modernizes religious thought. And there are some people who are falling back to old traditional religions, and then people who aren't going forward, because that's the thing. There's always a response. And so you're going to have those people who are trying to cling to the old past that are trying to stop this from occurring. And that's why you see so much hatred in the world, as those who are clinging to an old, outdated mindset tries to keep the world backwards and prevents it from moving forward and tries to strip people's rights away. You see that every day, all the time. It's happening. And we have to be the voice of change and the voice of transformation that pushes us towards a new world and a transformation of consciousness. Emery says, your job as a spiritual person is to respond to your mystical connection in your daily life. You need to be transformed by your spiritual awakening and manifest it through your actions and how you treat others. It's time your spiritual awakening was no longer secret. And that's the other aspect that I was talking about, is that you need to work on yourself in your own transformation. And then once you work on yourself in your own transformation, you will have the tools, the capacity to be able to help transform the world. And the way we transform the world is by creating a shift in consciousness. And one example of how does one create a shift in consciousness, how one creates a shift in consciousness is dependent on you as an individual. Because remember, every single one of us is a unique expression of reality, of existence, of the absolute, of the divine. We are all a manifestation and a part of that, and it is what we are. And thus we are all unique individuals and have something unique and individual to contribute. So for me, I contribute to this by spreading this message and giving people the tools to transform their consciousness through things like books and videos and shorts, etc. All my work is geared towards putting out a signal to try and get others who are awakened to come together, as well as putting out a single signal to give people the tools to reach their consciousness. That's how I do it, but that doesn't mean that's how you'll do it. You might be a musician and you can do it through music, or you might be an artist and be able to do it through painting. You might be a public speaker and be able to do it through public speaking presentations. You might be a philosopher. You can do it through philosophy. You might be a scientist. You can do it through your work in trying to transform science from an old, outdated mindset into a new paradigm where we understand reality through reason. You can help in many different ways, but it's unique to you. And if you haven't found a specific skill set that allows you to do that, well, hey, that means that you're not ready yet, that you have to go back to what I said before on working on yourself, because you can begin to find something that you can do. You need to cultivate something in yourself. Find what you're passionate about. Find what you love to do. Do you love to make music? Do you love to write? Do you love to paint? Try out different things. See what you like. Cultivate it in yourself. This is why you want to build yourself up. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to have all your needs met before you reach the level of self-actualization, and then past the level of self-actualization is the pinnacle of Maslow's hierarchy, which is transcendence, and only in the transcendent category is where you are in the area of your life where you're able to go out and help others. So it's really important to help yourself, and this can be manifest in so many different ways. You want to make sure that you have, you want to have a stable life, you want to have a steady income, you want to be able to put food on the table, you want to have time for yourself. Why? Because you need all this to be able to work on yourself and grow and transform. So getting yourself and your life in order is a huge part of helping the world, because you're not going to be any good in transforming the world if your life is not optimized and optimal. So working on yourself is part of being able to reach the vantage point of being able to help transform the world. And you need to also be ready to know what you are, where you are, why you are here to some degree to be able to help as well. So this idea that's been talked about, whether it's the second coming of Christ, or whether it's the age of Aquarius, or the new eon of Horus, this is in anticipation of something that is not occurring to us, but something which we have an intrinsic hand in creating, and that is the shift from an old way of being into a new way of being, from a survival mindset into a thriving mindset, and doing away with the old and creating a new beginning in a new humanity and a new earth as we establish a new consciousness. So there's a lot more on this. Check out my channel for way more videos on this information, especially if it's new to you. And I also want to say, if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon. You'll get access to all our members-only videos. We're having a members-only video right now, which is all about AI and artificial intelligence. Google's CEO just said that AI is the most significant invention since fire. So we're going to explore if AI is going to light up the world or burn it down. That's what we're doing in our members-only video. You can also help out by hitting the join button on YouTube right below this video. I want to give a shout out to everyone who does support, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, Maria, Joel, Fairies of Venus, Fashida, and thank you to DB for being our latest supporter, as well as Rhea. Thank you all very much.